Hey everyone! Previously we have seen how you can collect feedback from your users and analyze that feedback in Trubrics. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can also start logging user prompts from your Streamlit application directly to Trubrics. In LLM-powered apps, there is a load of information that users are giving through their prompts. The most obvious being what are users actually asking the model. But also, as users chat with an LLM, they're often given direct feedback from within their prompts. Right, so looking in our prompts page, we can see for this default project that we don't have any prompts yet. So now where are we actually going to log prompts from? So we've got this Streamlit application that's already developed. And this is just a simple LLM application with Trubrics feedback components already implemented. Now let's run the application and give that a test. Now going onto the feedback tab, if I refresh the data, I can see my data point, my thumbs up data point that I've just logged. And then when I go into the user comments, I can see the whole raw feedback object with the text, type and score in the user response and all of the metadata. Now let's go over to the prompts page and let's start logging some prompts. So here we're using Streamlit. Let's have a look at the code snippet that's going to be suggested to us. And let's just copy the collector.logPrompt method. We've already got a collector instantiated in this app, so we don't need the feedback collector again. Now let's feed in some of the metadata. So I'm just giving the model, I'm giving the prompt and the generation as well. And here I'm saving this only when the assistant is actually replying, so the LLM is actually giving a generation. There we go. Now we've got a user prompt that's been saved to Trubrics. Now let's head over, refresh the data and have a look. So here we can see our prompt has been correctly saved. And that's kind of the most basic implementation of logging prompts. Now, if we open up our docs and we go into the Streamlit integration documentation, we can see what other parameters we can use with this log prompt method. Okay, so let's use the user ID and log the email that we're using in this app. Let's also log some tags. I'm just logging one tag here, demo LLM. And then lastly, let's also create a session ID. So a session ID is really useful in a chat style application as it allows you to group all of your different messages and all of your different prompts and generations in a single session. So here I'm importing UUID and I'm using Streamlit session state for this. So here I'm using a session state parameter called session ID. And then I'm going to default that or set the default value to a generated ID from UUID and transform that into a string. Now that looks pretty good. We have our session ID set. And that means that every time we refresh our application in Streamlit, it's going to refresh that ID. And as refreshing this application is the only way to refresh the conversation between a user and the LLM, this works out well for us. So here I'm just going to fire away some prompts to our LLM. Now we've got them saved. Let's refresh our data again. And we can see that we have 3 new prompts with tags, with user ID as well, which is my email. And we also have a session ID. We can also filter on this session ID if we're looking for a specific session ID and all the prompts associated with that session. Now, the next piece of functionality that we want to show is how we can actually link a prompt that has been logged to a specific piece of feedback. So here, this collector.log prompt method actually returns a Pydantic object of the prompt, and inside that object there is an ID field. We want to set that ID field and we want to store them again to our Streamlit session state, and we're going to save that specifically to a session state variable called prompt IDs. Now, when I'm saving feedback, I want to access a specific element of that array, making sure that the prompt ID that I'm accessing is the same as the generation that is lined up with the feedback component that is associated with that generation as well. Now let's initialize that session state value as an empty array. Now, after refreshing the app, we can speak to our LLM again, ask it for another joke. We can see that our user prompt has been saved, and now we can start saving some feedback as well. Now let's head over to Trubrics and have a look at that feedback piece that we've just saved. Refresh our data again. And then if we go into the user comments, we can see the whole raw object. And now we have this prompt ID field that actually has a value. Let's go back over to the prompts tab and let's search for that specific prompt ID. And there it is. So this workflow is a typical workflow that you'll see in Trubrics, where you've saved some feedback, you're analyzing that feedback, trying to understand what your user is actually trying to tell you, and you have access to the whole prompt and generation, and also if you're using sort of a chatbot, you also have access to the whole of the session and all of the prompts and generations that were attributed to that specific piece of feedback. Now, if you want to run this tutorial for yourself, we actually have a deployed version of this on Streamlit Cloud that you can use. So just head over to our docs and have a look at that. And we also have the code snippet as well in the Trubrics SDK. Thanks very much for listening, everyone, and hope to see you next time.